Welcome to South Asia Matters on Awaz South Asia. I'm Nirupama Subramanian, and my guest today is R Narayanswamy, a senior journalist who has been a keen and sharp observer of Sri Lanka and the Tamil insurgency that plagued it for almost 3 decades. And he has written extensively, he has covered it extensively, and also written 2 books on the subject. One is called Tigers of Lanka, From Boys to Guerrillas, and the other is called Inside an Elusive Mind, a biography of Velupillai Prabhakaran, the head of the Liberation Tigers of Tamileelam. And the reason he's here with me today is to discuss a curious incident that took place on November 27th. But before we go to that, I would first like to welcome R Narayanswamy to South Asia Matters. Thank you for being with us, MR. I'm going to call you MR because that's how I've known you all these years, so that it's simpler.
Thank you, Nirma. Thanks for inviting me to your program.
Thanks, MR. So, this incident that I was referring to, it has to do with the appearance of a person, a woman, purporting to be the daughter of the leader of the LTTE, who was killed in 2009, Velupillai Prabhakaran. And what we know is that his whole family was also killed at that time at the end of the war in northern Sri Lanka in May 2009. So his wife, Madhivadani, his eldest son, Charles Anthony, this person who purportedly made an appearance yesterday, Duvaraga, and his youngest son, Balachandran, who we know was shot in cold blood by the army, by the Sri Lankan army. So this is what we know. Now, this person appeared yesterday, surfaced yesterday, and claiming to be the daughter of Velupillai Prabhakaran. And she made an address to the Tamil people saying that she's here to show the way to them. And this came on the Martyrs' Day on November 27th, which is customarily observed by the LTTE as the day to commemorate all its fallen heroes. And it was when Prabhakaran, when he was alive, made a speech. So in that tradition, she made a speech. This person made a speech, if it was a real person even. I would like you to say what you think about this rather curious incident that took place on November 27th.
Curious is probably the right word that you use, Nirupama, or probably you've been a little diplomatic, because it has been widely known and widely believed that Prabhakaran's wife and daughter, only daughter, were killed in May 2009. And there have been no trace of either of them since then, until, of course, yesterday. And so if the woman who spoke yesterday was indeed Dwarka, one will need a lot more solid evidence to back that claim, because I know people in Sri Lanka who are sympathetic to the LTTE and who steadfastly believe that the daughter and the wife of Prabhakaran were killed. So if indeed whoever spoke yesterday was indeed Dwarka, there will have to be a lot of evidence. And until that evidence comes by, we'll keep our fingers tightly crossed. On a personal level, I must say that if indeed it is the daughter, I'll be happy, because the daughter has not, to the best of my knowledge, committed any crime for which the father was blamed. And she has not violated any law of either Sri Lanka or any other country. So all the best to her. But till that evidence comes by, we will have to believe, we'll have to keep in mind that this is the era of artificial intelligence and anything is possible.
So let me ask you, were the bodies ever found at that time? What we have now is something that was said by the Sri Lankan army, and we have to take that as the final word on the matter. But there have been some other narratives around this, isn't it? That they fled, they escaped by boat to Europe, or they went to India, and from India they went elsewhere. Is that a possibility at all? That they escaped and they were, they led a life in some other place after 2009 in secret?
One, of course, is in the realm of possibility, anything is possible. Anything is possible. If they indeed escaped, well and good for them. But there is absolutely no reason for them to stay underground for 14 years. 14 years is not a small period. And they could have, as I said, they have not violated any law of the land, if as far as I know, and they have not violated any law of the land wherever they may be living now, if they are indeed living. So there is no reason for them to keep quiet. But yes, the bodies of many LTT leaders who are believed to have been killed have not been shown publicly. There has been no final proof that Potuaman, the LTT intelligence chief, was also killed. And there have been photographs of the dead Prabhakaran, which the Sri Lankan Defense Ministry has not yet released. And when I was in Sri Lanka some 10 days back and I met some former LTT people, all of them believe that Prabhakaran is indeed dead. And this has to be taken in the context of the fact that there is a section of the Sri Lankan diaspora, Tamil diaspora, and also their supporters in Tamil Nadu, all of them who kind of remain committed to the LTT cause, who believe that Prabhakaran never died in 2009, Prabhakaran is alive, Prabhakaran will one day reappear. So if you take the whole picture, it's a very murky picture. And in that murky picture, now comes a woman claiming to be the daughter of Prabhakaran.
But we don't even know if it's a real woman, right? I mean, from the visuals that we saw yesterday,
yeah,
it was not clear.
Anything is possible. As I said in the beginning, and I would say it again and again, the proof that Duvaraga, the daughter of Prabhakaran, is alive and indeed well and living in a Western country, proof, evidence for this has to be given by those who are in touch with her. Just by putting up an image on the YouTube channel now, because right now you had the other day a fake video of the Indian Prime Minister dancing, which he never did. But these things can be created. So if people want to believe that the world should believe that she's alive, there has to be solid evidence.
Before we move on to the reasons for why this has happened, I just want to ask you another question about this, about the claim that she's alive. You said there's no reason why she could not have come out before this. Maybe for safety or security, because we do know that the youngest son was shot dead for no reason at all. He was just 12 years old, and we saw visuals of that boy. He was first given some biscuits to eat, and then he was just shot dead in cold blood by soldiers. So maybe they were just scared for their lives wherever they were, and that is why they were undercover.
It could be. So it means that they are not scared anymore. This is what I'm saying. Go on speaking in riddles as to why now, and maybe they were afraid earlier. That would automatically mean that they are no more afraid now. That cannot be the case. LTT people in large numbers escaped from Sri Lanka and they took refuge in various parts of the world, principally the Western countries, where LTT offices used to operate once upon a time, and where there are a large number of Sri Lankan Tamils living. If indeed in this huge mass, Prabhakaran's wife and daughter, let us assume, took refuge, there is absolutely no reason for them to remain underground for the last 14 years. There is going to be no danger. The Sri Lankan government would be least interested in eliminating them. And probably the Sri Lankan government might even say, look, they're alive. And you used to say, you have said that we have killed them. So that only shows that all that has been spoken against Sri Lankan government is propaganda. So I don't think I won't take that line. I would simply say, yes.
You'd simply say?
I would simply say that if they were indeed alive, and there was no reason for them to remain underground for 14, 15 years. And so it is actually more than curious that they've made a sudden and dramatic appearance. They means I'm talking about the daughter.
Right. So whoever has set this up, why have they done this? Who does it benefit, and why now?
It certainly doesn't benefit the Tamil people of Sri Lanka in any manner whatsoever. If at all it benefits somebody, it could be a narrow section of the Sri Lankan diaspora which remains wedded to the LTT cause. And this is that section, as I said earlier, which has never believed in the death of Prabhakaran. And even if it were to believe, it has not come to terms with the fact that the long armed struggle waged with the LTT was put down and in a very vicious manner in 2009 by the Sri Lankan state. So, having never come to terms with this reality, and having kept the myth alive that Prabhakaran is alive, he will one day make an appearance, and so on and so forth. And you should also see that this diaspora, section of the diaspora, refuses to celebrate, refuses to mark the even the martyrdom, if I could use the term, of Velupillai Prabhakaran. So it effectively means that they don't think he's dead. So this is the people who want to keep alive this myth. They want to keep alive the myth of the LTT. But from whatever understanding I have of the Sri Lankan reality, from the Tamil side, I don't think anyone in the Tamil community, particularly the common people, are willing to embrace, will be willing to embrace the LTT ever again, with Dwaraka or without Dwaraka.
I was just checking some of the reactions to this event of November 27th, in which this person claiming to be Dwaraka spoke. And they have not been very complimentary. A lot of people have been saying that this is an insult to the memory of the martyrs, really, that this has been created, that somebody is taking the Tamil community for a ride. And some have even said that the Sri Lankan state could be involved in doing this. Is there any reason for the Sri Lankan state actually to resurrect the LTT at this stage, to resurrect the possibility that the LTT may be planning to revive itself, to regroup under some leadership?
I think, if I may say so, even if Lord Buddha wants to recreate the LTT, I think he will fail. The LTT, as I maintained, was a product of certain historical circumstances. We don't want to go into details on that point right now, but those historical circumstances are completely absent. And the fact that people have suffered, let me recall an incident, and I met some former LTT guerrillas, women guerrillas, late in 2009 or early 2010. I can't remember exactly when. And when I met them, one of the LTT guerrillas, I mean, both of them had escaped from Sri Lanka in May 2009 or just before that. And one of them told me, she was about 27 years of age. She told me that in 1983, when the trouble began, when she was certainly not in the LTT, because she was probably either not born or just born, and she said in 83, when the trouble began, the Tamil community in Sri Lanka was standing on its two legs. And after 26 years of armed struggle, after the death of hundreds and thousands of people and so much death and destruction, the Tamil community now is on its bended knees. Now, this being the case, this was a self-critical autopsy by someone who fought with the LTT. So, this being the case, this is also, in fact, a reality that is widely shared. I don't think the people who fought once for the LTT and are now alive in Sri Lanka are happy that the LTT got crushed in the manner it got crushed, but they have come to accept the reality, which the diaspora, sections of the diaspora, have not come to accept. That's a big difference. So whether or not the Sri Lankan state is involved, it is not going to go very far unless and until, I go back to my theory, people are able to provide solid, irrefutable evidence that this is actually Prabhakaran's daughter. She is alive, she is living, and where she is living.
So the reason I asked you that question was, are there sections in Sri Lanka who need to have an enemy before them uh, to for their own electoral success, who need to project an enemy to their voters, to tell their voters that we are your saviors, we saved you from the LTTE, and look, these people are going to come up again and you need us again.
Could be. In the realm of possibilities and impossibilities, anything is possible, anything is impossible. But we have to remember that the era you speak about when the Rajapakshes were seen as the real lions who defeated the tigers, that era is passe, it is history. Rajapakshes are today seen as people who brought Sri Lanka to its knees. We were speaking about the LTT being brought to its knees, the Tamil community being brought to its knees, but they actually took the entire country to its knees. That's the identity by which they are known, even among the mass of Sinhalese people. If at all, let us say for the sake of argument, that someone, if not Rajapakshas themselves, are trying to resurrect the LTT, to resurrect the Rajapakshas, I'm sorry, this is now in the realm of fiction. It's not going to work. People in Sri Lanka who have been tormented by the economic crisis, which the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka has pinned the blame on the Rajapakshas, among others, they are not going to vote for Rajapakshas again, whether they come in the garb of saviors or anything else. I think this story is not going to work, certainly not in the way that some people might be thinking.
You said just a minute ago that the historic conditions for the creation or the resurrection of the LTT or any group like that are not there right now. They do not exist right now. Yet there is a situation in which Tamil grievances, Tamil political demands have not been addressed by the Sri Lankan state. Do you think someone is trying to exploit that situation?
The Tamils in Sri Lanka certainly have certain grievances. There is no doubt about it. They have had certain historical grievances. There are certain grievances even now. You mentioned about land disposition. I mean, land which was taken away by the army, security forces for military reasons, not being given back. Cultivable land not being given back. Houses which were occupied by them not being given back. A certain sense of Sinhalization of the Tamil areas, if you might. There are so many other things. The lack of local elections, the lack of a provincial government, which the Tamils can call as their own, whichever may be the party in power, it doesn't matter. There are issues. But I don't think with all these issues, one can create the LTT either as a myth or as a reality once again, because those circumstances and forget everything else. When the Tamil militancy began, the Tamils were seen as underdogs. The Sinhalese were seen as the masters. So it was something like a David and Goliath versus Goliath. This superior state pressing down upon a poor, tormented minority. Over 26 years of violence, I don't think that's the picture. The moral ground, the ethical principles on which Tamil militancy once stood, that's all shattered a long time back. So there are a lot of complicated factors, and I don't think the Tamils have their grievances. The Tamils would like these grievances to be resolved, but I don't think for that reason they are going to embrace the LTT in whichever form it comes again. Because at the end of the day, the LTT was as much responsible for the mess that Sri Lanka is in today. I'm talking about the Tamil community, as much as the Sri Lankan state.
So why have these grievances remained unresolved even after 13 years after the war has ended? What is the reluctance on the part of the Sinhalese political establishment to do what it takes to resolve these grievances?
One could be short-sightedness. Nobody recognizes that somebody is short-sighted when they're acting in a particular manner. For example, I have often wondered why Sri Lankan leaders, when they got independence from Britain in 1948, did not make it mandatory for all Sri Lankans to read, to know compulsorily, mandatorily, just two languages, Tamil and Sinhalese. English, of course, everyone would have learned. So, with just three languages around in the country, if everyone, all Sri Lankans are made to learn, things would have been much better. I mean, on that score, probably India scores very well. India has its own set of problems. But when it comes to language, Indian state has taken a very cautious path. Now, on the same lines, just as the Sri Lankans did not think that making every Sri Lankan speak three languages would have been a wise decision, there are a lot of things they are not able to think. A lot of Sri Lankan Sinhalese, I mean to say, seem to think that the 13th Amendment is unwanted. It was imposed on us at a time when we were waging a war, when we didn't have the power to resist. So now that the war is over, now that we have resolved the war on our terms, why should we implement the 13th Amendment? They are not able to understand the 13th Amendment was put forward as an alternative to Tamilism. It was not put forward as a crutch for the Tamilism to be built on. And then at the same time, be it 13th Amendment, be it a provincial government in the north and east, we have also to see the record of the LTTE vis-a-vis this. Did the LTTE welcome this? No, the LTTE did not welcome it at all. The LTTE did not even welcome the India-Sri Lanka Accord of 87, from which arose the 13th Amendment. They wanted to sabotage it. And when there was a provincial government, we're not getting into the merits of it, but when there was a provincial government in the north and east, the LTT actively sabotaged it from within. So when extremists from two sides, they shake hands and sabotage something, and later they wonder what happened. Well, the Tamils had it, but they lost it. And it would be great if the Sri Lankan state were to take a holistic view of the whole thing and come to an arrangement with the Tamil community. But it's a pity that they continue to be, rather than a Sri Lankan state, a state, a Sinhalese majority state.
So, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that he is in talks with Tamil political leaders, and that they have agreed to something. Some other things remain to be discussed, and they will be soon resolving this matter.
Yes, Ranil Wickremesinghe has been talking to Tamil leaders, no doubt about it. But the criticism also is that he often talks with Tamil leaders whenever there is supposed to be a UN meeting in Geneva or somewhere else, or when he is supposed to be traveling to some world capitals where he might be questioned about what he's doing vis-a-vis the Tamil issue. So if Ranil Wickremesinghe is actually serious, and many people thought he was serious, then he has to do much more. But before doing anything to the Tamil community, he has to build a certain consensus within the Sinhalese majority, the Sinhalese Buddhist majority, that Sri Lanka has to be a nation state. It is a multilingual state. It should remain so. And for that, we need to make certain adjustments and not look at the Tamil community constantly from the prism of the LTT. Now, that's
he may not have the political capital to do so right now, because he is just a one-member party, and he's been elected on the support of other parties, of actually the Rajapaksas, who's Sri Lanka Peramuna, Podujana Peramuna, he's completely dependent on. So he may not really have the political capital to do so, isn't it?
When we speak about Ranil Wickremesinghe, or when I am speaking about Ranil Wickremesinghe, I'm speaking about the president of Sri Lanka. It could be Ranil. It was Gotabaya until yesterday. It could have been somebody. It could have Mahinda earlier. It could have been somebody else. It doesn't matter who there is. Ranil is there, so we are talking about him. Whether it's a one-man party or a 10-man party or a 100-man party. I mean, let us assume he has 100 seats in Parliament out of 225. Will he be able to do all these things? Even if he does, even if he wants to do, individually speaking, will the mass of the Sinhalese society, the Sinhalese Buddhist society, will they agree to what he may be arguing as the right approach to the Tamil question. This is a very important thing. At the end of the day, the Sri Lankan Sinhalese Buddhist society has to take a stand, has to convince itself what it is doing, what it has to do, must be good for the Tamil community, and what is good for the Tamil community, they must also realize would be equally be good for Sri Lanka. Unless this equation is established, no matter who the president is, no matter who the prime minister is, no matter how many seats he has, we will be back to square one repeatedly.
One last question, and I'll let you go after that. Uh, is there anything that India can do to resolve this impasse over the implementation of the 13th Amendment that Tamil parties have historically asked India to help them? And they have recently, in fact, when President Vikramasinghe visited here, they were asking Prime Minister Modi here to intervene on their behalf. So is there anything that India can do or should do in this matter?
I'm not sure what they can do or how they can go about. I'm sure India can play its role. But then India has to be careful also, because there was a time when India believed in megaphone diplomacy and speak loudly about various issues to do with Sri Lanka. And this really boomeranged, it backfired. So at a certain point of time, in the past 1 decade or little more than that, there was a conscious decision in New Delhi that there will be no more megaphone diplomacy. And if we have to convey things to Sri Lanka, it would be done in a diplomatic manner, which is a sound and wise decision. But having said that, if you, India, or if USA, or for that matter, any other country, however well meaning they may be, they try to do something, say something, it is often seen in Sri Lanka as interfering needlessly in Sri Lanka's internal affairs. At the end of the day, India can help Sri Lanka build a consensus, but the consensus that has to be built in Sri Lanka has to come from within. It has to be born in Sri Lankan society. It has to be nurtured by the Sri Lankan society, and it has to grow and blossom in Sri Lankan society.
Thank you very much, MR, for all your insights. You are the real expert on LTTE, and I look forward to, I believe there is going to be a new edition of your biography of Prabhakaran, and I look forward to reading that when it is out. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers, for watching South Asia Matters. If you like this program, press the subscribe button, follow us, and also follow us on awazsouthasia.com. Thank you.